Minnesota Micromotors is part of a House of Brands organisation, with the parent company being Fractional Motors Limited. Minnesota Micromotors is a single brand company specialising in the supply of motors which are used within the orthopaedic machinery. This is a niche market, however they do face competition from within the industry. From the 6 critical marketing orientations, we see Minnesota Micromotors as sales-orientated marketing, which is justified by high number of sales force, rewards to sales force, and concentration on customer acquisition. However, we alter the strategy to move towards relationship marketing, concentrating on training the sales force and increasing funding towards customer retention rather than customer acquisition. Furthermore, seeking feedback from customers and based on their requirements allocating funds towards product development. Looking at the SWOT analysis, their current strengths sit within good power to size ratio and close relationships with its customers. Minnesota Micromotors' current weaknesses being thermal resistance, low market share, and channel conflicts with distributors. There are opportunities to grow the market share, however there is threat from overseas importers who offer cheaper prices, which has the potential to take future market share growth. Other threats are a shift of market dynamic towards Tier 1, multi-layered motors with stronger thermal efficiency and competitors introducing a high torque. Porter's 5 Forces helps give us more clarity on competitors. There is a high intensity of competitive rivalry as there are over 100 competitors. Every time we make a move, they make a move, and our observation is that they tend to stay 1 to 2% lower than us. There is always the threat of new entrants. With the advancement of technology and additional threats is that our customers could supply their excess product into the market. There is a risk, especially for Segment D, with brushed motors as a substitute product due to price, not quality. There is no evidence, though, that suppliers hold power in this sector. Segment A has a 19% market share, they hold relative power, and so does Segment D with a 29% of the revenue, which equates to roughly 11% of the market. It is worth noting that Minnesota Micromotors are at risk of competitor substitution as they don't have fixed long-term contracts in place with their customers. Collaboration is mainly with customers, where Minnesota Micromotors consults with them during the design phase to produce fit-for-purpose motors along with specific customer requirements. Good quality of customization can lead to increased dependency of customers on Minnesota Micromotors for product supply. They also collaborate with distributors to cater for a smaller market. By applying McDonald & Wilson's 10 steps of the strategic marketing planning process, we can apply industry best practice, develop a clear strategy, and highly effective tactics which will help Minnesota Micromotors grow their existing clientele while attracting new customers. Their mission is to be a manufacturer of high-end motors for orthopedic devices. They aim to minimize device failure while facilitating precise maneuvering of orthopedic devices during surgery. Their corporate objectives are to be the most profitable company in the high-end orthopedic motors market, and this will be accomplished by maintaining a high level of customer service and interaction and developing strong domain knowledge. In Q3 2012, we conducted a marketing audit, and the key call-outs are, with high research and development costs, it will be difficult to excel in thermal efficiency while maintaining market leadership in power to size, so our focus is on thermal efficiency and increasing our product performance. We want to increase profitability to be able to spend more on research and development, and we do not believe sales teams are cost effective due to high cost, high turnover, and a new customer acquisition rate that exceeds our customer retention rate. We satisfy our customer needs well in Segment A and require improvement for Segment B and C. At an average price of $126, our price cross elasticity is above industry average of $118. The total market for Minnesota Micromotors is motors for the high-end medical and orthopedic devices market. They operate in a business-to-business market, but the nature of demand is derived demand as the motor requirements and sales are driven by the end customer. The structure of demand is industrially concentrated as the medical and orthopedic devices market defines a strict boundary. The segment variables are divided into 2 key areas with behaviours, those seeking rational and functional benefits, and those seeking price, economy, and value benefits. Rational and functional benefits can then be further divided into thermal efficiency, power to size, and customer support. Segments A, B, and C concern about rational and functional benefits such as thermal performance, power to size, and customer service, and Segment D and distributors primarily focused on cost. Segment A has strong brand loyalty to Minnesota Micromotors, and profit potential is good. Minnesota Micromotors has strong, though declining market share at 19%, arresting this decline is critical to preserve the loyalty effect. Segment B has strong brand loyalty to its existing suppliers, which makes penetrating this market difficult. Profit potential is good, as Segment B is not very price sensitive. Segment C are after the best performance and are not price sensitive at all. This gives Segment C the highest profit potential of any group. These factors make Segment C a very attractive segment. Almost 23% of Micromotors' revenue comes from Segment D. Segment D's long-term sales potential is high, with 5,808 units sold in Q3 2012. However, due to price sensitivity, profit potential is poor. There is no indicator of brand loyalty, and there is threat from overseas distributors. The high discounts distributors require give a low profit potential despite increased long-term sales potential. There is no indicator of brand loyalty, and Segment D and distributors are only really attractive in their ability to bolster volume, helping with economies of scale. Segment A and B highly value customer knowledge, thus we believe we need to alter the marketing orientation from sales to relationship orientated by discouraging sales force turnover, allocating funds to training, and focusing on customer retention. By examining the results from the GE matrix and customer lifetime value model, which helps demonstrate the value proposition for the segments, we can see that Segment A is a star customer and we need to continue to delight them. Segment B is a vulnerable customer, therefore we need to build a better value proposition. Segment C is highly attractive as they are willing to pay a higher premium, and this is our primary focus for building competency. While Minnesota Micromotors has a good market share in Segment D and their distributor network, both are price-sensitive markets, thus they are not attractive. As a business-to-business company, where key performance attributes are the key purchasing criteria for our target customer segments, Minnesota Micromotors uses a feature-based approach for positioning our product to our key target markets. The value propositions created for the targeted markets are based on Anderson and Naras 2004, so as to encourage trial and likelihood of purchase, receiving a larger share of purchase, thereby increasing Minnesota Micromotors' market share and target markets becoming less resistant to price increase. These should assist an upward movement in the CLPA pyramid for the customers of Segment C and B. We have left out positioning statements for Segment D and distributors as previously discussed in the COV model. These are lost causes. The critical assumptions we are making whilst developing this strategy are that the market will continue to grow and that it will react positively to improved product performance. Segment B will be difficult to make happy due to their brand loyalty to our competitor, and we don't expect to be able to satisfy completely small businesses due to the buffer that distributors place between us. We assume the best way to grow the profitability is to target high-value customers via product features and knowledgeable sales staff, and if we throw research and development at thermal efficiency at the expense of power to size, our competitor will pivot and chase power to size instead. To summarise using Lafley Martin's playing to win, our winning aspiration is to become the most profitable company in the motors for high-end orthopedic devices segment. We will play in the niche brushless direct current micromotor market targeting segments A, B, and C. We will win by maintaining market leadership in power to size ratio, increasing our thermal efficiency, and significantly improving our customer service. The capabilities we have in place to win are a strong engineering, product, and research development teams, detailed knowledge of the market, and competitors' activities. And the management systems we need are a strong MIS, a well-structured quality management system, a methodology for collating and interpreting customer feedback. Marketing tactics were developed in order to meet our SMART goals, use of various models and frameworks to strategically plan and implement those tactics. By applying the brand equity pyramid, which helps organisations understand what their customers think and feel, whether they are likely to recommend the organisation to others, we can understand what Minnesota Micromotors customers think, which in turn assisted in defining and targeting our marketing tactics accordingly. Since Segment A isn't affected by price, it is already considered a loyal customer, and our goal is to get them to commit. For Segment B, they're still sitting at a preferred level, but will become loyal with further improvements in thermal resistance. Segment C, on the other hand, are loyal due to experiencing special treatment by receiving motors well in advance of other competitors. Orthopedic surgeons, which are the influencer market, prefer power to size ratio versus thermal resistance. Relating back to our chosen segment, which is Segment A, this demonstrated by us maintaining our power to size ratio and then a pivot towards building competency in thermal in order to target improved revenue from Segment C, with collateral benefits which are increasing revenue from Segment B from 4 to 8% market share, ultimately achieving our strategy to be highly profitable. The marketing mix for our product is best described with the 4 Ps: As we produce a physical product rather than a service, the extended marketing mix was considered unnecessary. Our budget allocation reflects the market analysis and a demonstration of our positioning. There are 3 distinct phases as we adjust research spend on power to size and thermal resistance according to strategy to capture market share in segment A, B, and C. Sales budget and marketing budget remain consistent through the period. This provided stability internally and externally to our customers, which we previously did not have, with the hire and fire attitude to Salesforce. These spend levels were optimized through research to maximize return for investment, balancing revenue growth and healthy margins. Minnesota Micromotors' strategy was developed considering McKinsey's 3 horizons of growth. 1. Focusing on building revenue and sales base with segment A in the first year. 2. The second horizon was extended across the second and third years, nurturing emerging businesses as our motors developed and the company positioned to increase market share with segment C and eventually market B. The third horizon has not yet reached. To create genuinely new business, the company is now positioned with a healthy revenue and profit and stable product development of a class of leading brushless motors. Resegmenting the market this stage with a new SWOT will open additional options for our marketing team to pursue and further development ideas for our engineering team as well. The GE matrix indicated that segment C is attractive, but we need to cross-sell or upsell to increase revenue from this segment. In order to do so, as per the attractiveness model, Minnesota Micromotors needs to build competency, which encourages the decision to invest in thermal resistance as well as funding training for Salesforce. This in turn assists in achieving our SMART goal to improve the brand position for segment C. Minnesota Micromotors has a strong marketing information system and committed a consistent portion of the budget to market research. Maximizing the customer lifetime value was a key factor in selecting segment A. As a loyal customer with a strong pre-existing relationship, we aim to maximize customer value through quick sales, upkick, and retention. The segment profile and analysis concluded investing in power-to-size features was a requirement to increase segment A's market share. Further research also demonstrated segment A was very responsive to retention efforts. An additional 18,552 units were sold on segment A as a result of this decision to unlock customer lifetime value. The Agile implementation plan and strategy over the period of 3 years from Q4 2012 to Q4 2015, including resource allocation to support the plan based on BEST 2005. In summarizing, we put heavy focus on large customers. Small customers behind a distributor are hard to market to. Segment D was low margin but relative high unit sales. And by the end of the simulation, we are positioned to retain our market share in segment A and grow in segment B and C, as shown above. This is a summary of our observations on reactions to our tactics. And how do we achieve this? Firstly, always be listening. We observed the results from the market research and consciously allocated funds to market research. For example, in 2013 Q2, we found that our power-to-size ratio is close to our customers' desire. However, thermal resistance is way under segments A, B, and C's expectations. Secondly, always execute purposefully. We then experimented with our hypothesis and persistence in the implementation. Therefore, from 2013 Q3, we started increasing the investment on thermal, resulting in a 23% increase of gross margin from segment C by the end of 2013 Q4. Thirdly, always seize the timing. We gained insights about timing from our MIS and then acted on the strategy at the time. In 2013 Q4, we increased the sales emphasis on segment C by 15% to continuously seize the growing opportunity. And lastly, always be agile and adaptable. We continuously adapted, applying the test and learn approach. In 2014 Q4, we saw a decline in segment A, although both power to size and thermal was above A's expectations. Segment A market is saturated, whereas segment B increased 4% over 1 quarter. So we adapted and shifted the sales emphasis to segment B by 14%, resulting in unlocking a potential market. We set 5 hypotheses around market reaction, customer satisfaction, product development, customer retention versus acquisition to test and learn our market plans. Results have been collected and analysed via the MIS, effects have been observed, and insights have been learned. Hypothesis 1. The hypothesis of market reaction is that the market will react to research and development and not neglect our investment. The result was that we learnt from the market research that the competition doesn't react to power to size investment, but reacts to heat resistant investment. And the insight gained means that we need to keep investing in power to size to keep our overall competitive advantage to differentiate our product in the mature market. Hypothesis 2. The second hypothesis is that we can't keep segment B satisfied. The result, after investing in thermal in 2013 quarter 3, segment B instantly increased purchases with us even with less sales force emphasis. As a result, the persistent investment in thermal helped us achieve a 27% increase in gross margin from segment B. From this, we learnt that we should not stop pursuing attractive, vulnerable customers because it requires development in our weak area, and that marketing strategy should be persistently implemented. Hypothesis 3. The third hypothesis on customer satisfaction is that we will not be able to directly affect the satisfaction of small businesses because they are sitting behind the distributors. Although we can keep the distributors happy to enable them to push our product to the smaller customers, but that requires additional investment in the supplier market. The result was that we deselected small customers to ensure adequate external communications and selling strategies were in place. We also need additional investment in the supplier market. As they are not an attractive segment, it requires too much effort for little gain. And the insight gains means even though we deselected small customers and put no effort in place, their business was with us to remain the same, and we did not lose business from neglecting this segment. Hypothesis 4. The best way to grow business is to improve the properties of the product. The result was that the initial feature spend is with a focus on revenue growth and securing segment A, power to size research. Additional expenditure in 2013 quarter 1, unlocked by higher revenues, allowed us to go after segment C. Around 2015, we tailed off research and development spend to a manageable level as the company matures, but with a prioritization now on thermal to gain market share in segment C and then B. We continue power to size spend to maintain position as leaders in this area. And the insights gained means power to size and thermal resistance are negatively correlated. If research is spent on one and not the other, our proficiency will drop in that area. It is a must to maintain some level of spend on both areas. Hypothesis 5. Allocate resources to attracting, retaining versus new customers in the range of 70 to 80 to 20 to 30 mix. The result was that we observed customer retention as opposed to acquisition is that it is a key driver to segment A and it has little to low effect on the other segments. Most value was added as a whole, and the highest market share of segment A was accomplished with a focus of 85% on customer retention. And the insight gains mean that this indicates that our product spoke for itself when attracting sales, the power to size, thermal, and pricing points were more important to the remaining segments than market acquisition spend. What changes have been made and why we chose to make them? Phase 1 is building segment A. 1. Increase price and increase the discount. The list price increased from $142 to $171, with the average industry price now sitting at $118. 2. Emphasis focus on segment A and retaining large customers. We increased sales force emphasis on segment A to 50%, increased the spending on large customers to 85%, and invested in power to size as a key requirement for segments A and C. 3 is we reduced the sales force from 11 to 6 to cut spending and increase sales force quality and efficiency. So transformation from sales orientation to relationship orientation, dedicated sales force to provide a more customized support for retained large volume customers. This will also decrease the spending on customer acquisition and will continue investing in power to size development. But why? Well-positioned and a pre-existing relationship with segment A allow Minnesota Micro Motors to quickly increase market share. Our sales reached 27,000 units and the segment share hit 55%, then growth stagnated. We understood this was the saturation point for segmented penetration and encouraging the decision to diversify to other segments whilst retaining our position in segment A and to reduce risk through segment diversification and tap potential easier growth avenues. Phase 2. Building segment C. Actions. First, we increased the focus on segment C by 15% and reduced the focus on A, B, and D. Secondly, we increased the spending on thermal resistance to achieve the superior motor performance on both thermal resistance and power to size ratio. But why? Minnesota Micro Motors' position shifted to segment C Though increased research and development on thermal, this segment had a disposition to both power to size and thermal. And as the market leaders in power to size, we anticipated we could increase the market share in segment C before needing to become market leaders in thermal. Phase 3, actions. First, we reduced the spending on both power to size and thermal, and secondly, we increased the emphasis on segment B by 14%. By the end of the simulation, we are positioned to retain our market share in segment A and grow in segment B and C. But why? Segment A is holding a steady market share, and segment C has a moderate and steady quarter-on-quarter increase in market share. Minnesota Micromotor's position as leaders in power to size and increasing thermal properties allowed them to again reposition towards segment B with a major focus on thermal, whilst building competency with segment C also. This market positioned to open a third tranche of growth and rejuvenated the product lifecycle. To critique our marketing tactics, 1. Pricing was not used as a strategy as it would contradict with the company mission to increase the market share and maximize profitability. 2. On top of that, we would lose the competitive advantage in this market as competitor copies our pricing strategies. 3. Segment D could have easily targeted by offering heavy discounts in order to increase their market share. However, we did not pursue segment D with independent pricing strategy. And 4th, despite ignoring small customers, we didn't lose any market share. If we had contributed some efforts into this segment, we may have increased their business, thereby increasing market share. Lastly, we also did not invest in the manufacturing process. The reason for not investing in manufacturing was that we were working on improving the product, so it would have resulted in no returns from investing in process, since change in product would result in the change of process as well. However, we didn't demonstrate that it would result in gain. We felt it served us better by allocating funds to research thermal and power to size.